Hello. So I want to talk about The Handmaid's Tale. Um, it is an American show, came out like years ago. I just finished binge watching all five available seasons now. It's a lot to process. It's just a lot overall. I'll just start with the more factual things before I talk about opinions about the show and thoughts about it. So this is five seasons. There's a sixth and final season in production that's going to come out, I believe, in April this year. So I cannot wait for that. Um, the show's structure um is really good when it comes to like progressing the plot. I would say season two is the weakest in this case in terms of like sort of like repeating things we've seen before, but besides that which is like a small criticism, each season does a good job of presenting new scenarios, new settings, bringing in new characters, taking out older ones. It does a good job of moving the plot along to the point where I didn't even know what was going to happen. Like some things are predictable, but I would say most of the surprises are unpredictable. Maybe because I'm not a good judge of what's going to happen in the future or predicting what's going to happen in shows. But I'm just really surprised by how much like sometimes my breath is taken away by some of the surprises that the showrunners are able to pull up. You know, um, I guess I'll get into that later. And also as a drama, yeah, I'd say the acting is phenomenal, gets better and better like each season, especially when I could tell the actors are getting more comfortable in their characters, of the personality traits and the way they kind of play around with it more. Once they get more comfortable with it, and we as viewers get comfortable with the characters that after watching them for hours and hours on the screen, the music gets better too. Specifically the end credit songs and the pre-credit or the what credits in the beginning, like the songs that were played in the beginning and the end of each episode. Usually kind of like pop songs, but some of them I haven't heard before, some of them I have. It's a good mix of old and new, and the choice of those songs kind of get better and better like as the show progresses. And also the cinematography gets a lot better. I could tell season one was like a pilot season, as most shows are, and you could tell the budget gets like expanded as the show progresses, and like by season five and four and three, like the second half of the show, like amazing cinematography, the way scenes are shot, just the camera work, you know. I think I talked about the acting already. Yeah, the music, the cinematography, and what else? When it comes to like the genre of the show, hmm, I don't know how to start it in the beginning. Like in the beginning of the show, it is as the premise states, which is all I knew, because I like to go into shows without knowing what's going to happen, like with as little information as possible. And especially with this show, The Handmaid's Tale, it really enhanced my experience. And I was able to enjoy it a lot more, not knowing what was going to happen. But yeah, the premise is that the U.S. has been turned into a theocratic, somewhat like just like a male-dominated authoritarian. I don't know, like sort of fascisty, right-wing, not really dictatorship, because I don't really see any one person, like controlling everything. But regardless, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, and then a woman from Boston gets caught up in this like regime change or political change, political structural change in the U.S. And the U.S. is turned to this country of Gilead, and she becomes a handmaiden. And in this show, sorry, I thought I heard a noise. And in this show, handmaidens in this society in Gideon have only one purpose, which is to procreate, like to have intercourse with men, powerful men who are married and have their own wives, and sometimes their own kids, because their wives are not fertile. Oh yeah, so the whole reason this is happening, sorry, this whole premise is because in this future, uh, humanity for the most part is becoming infertile, and Gideon was a plan by some uh, some political thinkers in the U.S. And sort of stoked by religious Christian fanaticism, that the fertile women be sort of taken and grouped together and then just given to the powerful male leaders to just give them children, and that's their role. So the show obviously does explore like gender and sex. I can talk about that later. But yeah, staying on the facts. try to keep this factual first before I get into opinions. All right, that's it. I can't think of any more. So opinions, yeah, go into the show without knowing what's going to happen because the last three seasons, I would say season three too, three to five. Oh yeah, the last three, that are available right now are they're wildly unpredictable. I had no idea like where it was going. The first season is kind of predictable. You know, she's stuck in being a maid to this family or this couple, I mean, you know, and then you see her history. And the show does a good job of providing flashbacks for all the characters who are kind of recurring throughout the show. And it obviously humanizes them and helps you understand why they're in the situations they are right now. The show does a good job of also sort of a really good job, I think, of and I don't know if this is intentional, it might have been, but connecting the show's like political like environment to the way the US is right now. And that's something I did not expect. When I do think about, I mean, when I did some research on this, like what some people thought about the show and like what it was, like what kind of societies in the real world it was trying to like convey, criticize, or just like reveal. I think one of them was like Islamic countries, you know, where women are popularly, at least, like when it comes to being described in like Western media, you know, being like in, subservient roles in those societies. Some people compared it to the Trump um 4 year presidency of his. You know, back then, even though he's president now again, but back then. Some people compare it to, I forgot what the third thing was, and I might have it up here. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because like I was just really fascinated to see like what people would think about what this show meant. Oh yeah, several protests around the world, especially related to women's rights, have made use of the red handmade uniforms from TV shows. Okay, yeah. All right. Oh yeah, and some people connected the show to the policies of the Christian Reconstructionist movement of the 1970s and 80s that's thought to expel women from the workforce, because that does happen in the show. So I don't really want to spoil the show for you. But yeah, but the show, I don't know how to say this. It, as the show progressed, especially towards the end of like season five, um, it got closer and closer from my perspective to like the way America is now and where it's headed. It's just it's kind of refreshing because that makes this for me one of the best like realistic in terms of like there aren't like any like fantastical supernatural elements in the show. You know, it's a drama. It's one of the best like how I say this fictionalized but like realistic sort of politically relevant dramas I have ever seen. Um, because usually when I start shows, like I'll watch like a lot of shows, maybe just like the first episode or two, just to get like an idea of it, because I don't have the time or the interest. I'd move on to the next one. I don't do this all the time, just sometimes if I'm looking for a show to watch. But with The Handmaid's Tale, I heard a lot about it. I was intrigued by the concept and why it was such a big deal, and I get it. It's just a really good show. Um, even though it does start with the handmaid's perspective, the main character, oh my goodness, what's her name? This is bad. I forgot the main character's name. She's a woman. I guess like on another like personal note, like this show kind of helped me understand like myself when it comes to the way I view women, like sort of my sexist and misogynistic views and like where they come from. So it was also kind of therapeutic for me, you know, because I guess I was raised in somewhat like white privilege sort of style in terms of being like yeah sheltered and sort of having everything I would kind of want, like instant gratification, like to the extreme. That was the way I was kind of raised. And this show is a good way for me to like really hone in on characters going through things I going through circumstances I hear about in the news. You know, when it comes to refugees, when it comes to slaves or modern slavery at least, when it comes to like people who make horrible decisions out of desperation. And I think my sort of a call it addiction, being a junkie, um, getting my entertainment on the screen, and like th this is really enlightening entertainment. For me, it's educational. Because besides this, I kind of watch a lot of like I listen to a lot of podcasts, watch a lot of news. But when it comes to like watching dramas, I'm very picky about it. I want to make sure something I could really engage with or learn something about the world or myself. and this show does that pretty well. So at the end, like I am a lot more, well, at least to some significant degree, more compassionate when it comes to my thoughts towards women, especially the ones who I might have been highly judgmental of in the past. It does help me humanize those who I'm just not very, familiar with. Um, and it does expose my misogyny and sexism. And it's nice to like talk about that. And God, this show's doing it for me. Oh, so and also as the show does progress through the 5 seasons, like it also brings up other interesting political scenarios, and then such as like refugees. I did not expect that, which was great. Um, Refugees from America, or Gideon, I guess in this case, going to Canada. Uh, as the show progresses, yeah, you get more um, settings in Canada outside of just like that house where that handmaiden is stuck in the beginning. And so the show does turn more and more into like a political spy thriller. You have agents from like Canada, from America, which is now based in Anchorage, Alaska, whereas the contiguous 45 has been taken over by, uh, you know, those who, turned it into Gideon, um, or Gillian. God, I keep forgetting the name of the new country. Um, so yeah, when I talk about the genre of the show, it does I think it's probably a spy thriller slash drama because there are like also love triangles in it, allegiances, betrayals, tests of loyalty. I just can't believe I haven't tried this show before. This is insane. It's a really good show. I'm looking forward to season 6. I sound like I'm closing this video off because I am trying to think if there's anything else to say. This is The Handmaid's Tale, y'all. It's good stuff. I'm glad I checked it out. If any of that sounds interesting, you should definitely give it a watch. Until then, peace.